All right. Well, if you're like most people, you've probably heard the famous quote from Peter Drucker that actually says, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." Culture eats strategy for breakfast. I can just hear him saying that, right? Now, it seems like a little weird saying, especially since Peter Drucker was known for management and for a lot of the strategy things that he did as well. But he talked about that. He used that, and I think it's a fabulous quote, right, to begin with. But that's not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about is like I said, you probably heard that culture eats strategy for breakfast. But did you also know that community eats networking for breakfast? Oh, what's that? You probably never heard that before, right? And you might be sitting there saying, "What? I was told that I need to network." That's what we get told. Uh, hey, Facebook user, hey man, I can't see who you are. It's not telling me who you are, but let me know who you are in the comments as well because I want to do a shout out to you as well. So if you're on with me, excuse me, live, let me know as well. But anyway, so with that, right, because a lot of times you're told, look, you got to go network. You got to go network. Well, unless you're a salesperson, you don't need to network. And let me explain why. Oh, Rob Barry, there we go, Rob. All right, my man, how are you? I'm glad you're here with me. So there we go. The so we're sorry, I get a little distracted sometimes. That's just what I do because I like Rob, right? Excited that he's here with me. So let's talk about this a little bit, right? Because as I said, unless you're a salesperson, networking probably isn't even important for you. It's probably a waste of your time. And the reason for that is most networking events you go to, people are there to get something, right? Networking events are usually full of people trying to sell you something, and everybody is trying to sell everybody else. So that's why, even most of the time, if you're a business owner or a salesperson, networking events are a waste of your time because you're put in a room with a bunch of other people that are trying to sell to you and you're trying to sell to them. Doesn't work so good, right? They come with the intention of selling to you, you've come with the intention of selling to them. Nobody makes a sale. Okay. Now, I realize most of you are not salespeople. So how does this relate in your own personal or professional life as well? Well, there are a lot of things that are quote unquote networking events for certain people, right? Like a lot of people I work with are chief audit executives or leaders in internal audit in their organization. And so there's professional service firms that will put on what they usually call roundtables or networking things. It's an excuse to try to get a bunch of people in the room that they want to sell stuff to. It's not working, folks. So usually those things are free. You know, you go to them. Sometimes the information is good, sometimes it's not. Right? It depends on who's actually there and what they're specifically talking about. But what I can promise you is if you're going to something that doesn't cost you anything, that is free, it ain't free. You're going to have to listen through a sales pitch. Okay. So, for example, have you ever seen the deals like where it's like, hey, come down to Cabo San Lucas in Mexico and stay in our resort for 3 days and it won't cost you anything. We're going to give you 3 nights accommodation in our resort. Is it really free? If you've ever said yes to one of those things, I'll tell you, it ain't free. You got to sit through. In fact, I was just talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago about this, that she had done that. Her and her husband had gone down to Mexico. They spent 8 hours, 8 hours effectively locked in a room with somebody trying to get them to buy a timeshare. Okay. It ain't free. So, there, like I said, there's a lot of those things out there. And a lot of times that's all people realize are actually out there. Well, what I'm here to tell you is there are some new things that are starting where it's actually community and it's not networking, right? You pay to go. You pay to go. There's good quality content and you don't get sold to, right? Because that's not the purpose of it. It's not people there trying to sell to you. So, what's the difference between networking and community? Well, Let me use one of my favorite people. So those of you that know me very well know how much I love Mr. Rogers, right? And he always used to say, "Won't you be my neighbor?" Well, that community feel, and as a little kid growing up and watching Mr. Rogers, I had that sense of community, right? Even though I never saw Mr. Rogers in person, I watched his show. I watched the other kids that were on that show with him, and I felt a sense of community, like I belonged to that group of children that he was talking to. I felt like as he was talking to me, that he was talking to me, right? Because I was a part of that community. And what I'll tell you is in my own personal life, I participate in several different groups that are groups or are communities. And most of them are virtual. But I will tell you, I have developed better relationships in a lot of those communities than I have with friends and family that I have had for a long time. Why? Because we're all there, and have a lot of the same challenges that we're dealing with and trying to work through. And when you're in a group that actually feels like a community, everybody's going through the same things together, you get that sense of belonging. And what I will tell you is that is a basic human need. We all have a need to belong, and we want to belong to communities. That's again why there's certain organizations like the Rotary and the Elks Club and things like that, that exist to try to provide people with some of that community as well. But a lot of those are kind of dying out, because there's a lot of volunteer time that it takes, for you to be a part of those, and it really just kind of burns a lot of people out. So why am I talking about this, right? Because again, like I said, a lot of people only believe or think that their only option for getting some of that is to go to some of these other events, but it's not. And so I'm just going to share with you a couple, that are out there now as well, right? Again, take it, leave it. It's up to you, right? I'm just here talking. If it resonates with you, then it resonates with you. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. One of those is Sea Risk Academy. Now, you might know that as far as being a training company, an online training company, but it's also a community of people that are going through some of the same stuff. There's a Facebook group, there's other things that are there as well. And so that's kind of growing out of, again, this need for people that want to belong to a community. And they don't want to have to drive across town, go to a networking event, or go to something like an IIA chapter meeting that takes a lot of time out of their day that they don't really want to participate in anyway. So that's an option that's out there. Another one that I want to talk about today is the Audit Leader Forum. Because again, as I told you, a lot of the people that I serve are audit leaders. They're chief audit executives, directors of audit, managers at different places. And a lot of times they don't have any place to go, and they feel like they're all alone. Imagine again, and I felt this when I was a chief audit executive. I'm the only one going through this. I felt like I was the only one going through certain things because I didn't know anybody else. I didn't belong to any communities of people like that, where you've actually felt safe in a confidential area where you could actually open up and talk about some of the things that are challenging you. That's why I created the Audit Leader Forum. And what I have been amazed and floored with is, again, as people share, how many times I have heard people say, you know what? I feel all alone. I feel like I'm the only one going through this. And just sitting here and listening to the other people talk makes me realize I am not alone. I am not different. I am not weird. Other people are dealing with these same challenges. But the difference, too, is they actually get to walk away with having answers and solutions to those problems that up until that point, they had just been problems they thought they weren't going to be able to fix, or they didn't know how they were going to be able to fix it as well. Okay. So again, community eats networking for breakfast. It's a totally, totally different environment. And I realize that for a lot of you, you've never experienced it, so you don't know what it actually is like. Well, you're never going to know until you actually try, right? You never know for sure until you actually try something. Why am I talking about this now? Because the Audit Leader Forum is actually open for enrollment. Normally, it only opens a couple times a year. This happens to be one of those times. So if you're an audit leader that's looking for community, that wants solutions to the problems and challenges that you have, want to be able to learn what other people are doing, and realize that everything is confidential and a place where you can feel safe, then I would suggest that you actually look into and join the Audit Leader Forum. Okay. Again, I'm not here to give you a sales pitch. I just want you to know that that is actually something that is available and out there. And so what I'm going to do again, let me just go over here real quick. Let me get the, what I'll do is I'm going to put the link to it if you're interested, so that you can go out and take a look at it and see if it is something for you. So here we go. There we go. It should be populating now. And, reach out to me if you have any questions. If you look at it and you're like, you know what, I think it sounds like something that I want, but I'm not quite sure, reach out to me, message me on social media, send me an email, and let's talk. Because what I will tell you is you're probably not familiar with it because you've never experienced it. But once you experience it, you're never going to want to go back, right? Because you're going to realize you're going to have that sense of belonging, that sense of community that I'm sure, if you're like most people, you've been looking for and just haven't found it yet. In fact, one of the people that's in the group told me last week, I've been looking for 15 years for something like this. Did you hear me? I've been looking for 15 years for something like this. So if you're one of those people that are like that, here's an option. Okay. All right, my friends. And that is going to do it for my live for today. Because we got some people coming over for dinner. So I got to go get ready for that. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you on my next live or my podcast or wherever I see you next.